Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Rob. I hope you are well. I will get us kicked off in a moment or two's time. We're just going to give everybody a few moments to get onto the call, and then we'll get started. While we're waiting for people to join, just say hi in the chat if you can. We have a Q&A panel. We also have a chat panel in this Zoom webinar. So if you're in there, just say hi. Love to hear who we got on the call today.
I see some names from the last call also, so it's good to see. What's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well.
People are coming in.
I see Mr. Kyle Gaddis. What's up, brother? Good to see you.
Do you two not get sick of talking to each other?
Never. Love Kyle.
Hey, Tom. How you doing? We've got Thomas Everhard in here. Awesome. We've got Tim. Hey, Tim. Nice to see you here as well. Kyle, of course. And Joseph Bojang's in the house. Nice to see you, but Joseph. Tim says, didn't I wear this shirt in Austin at the piano bar? I'll explain that comment in a moment.
That's not fair. That's not fair, Tim. Don't do that.
Okay, we'll get this thing going. People will undoubtedly be joining as we get through. But we'll just get this started anyway. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending where you are in the world today. Today's going to be a fun session. For those of you who don't know me, I'll do a quick introduction to myself and our guest Alex in a moment's time. Just want to talk about the format of today though. First thing is, yes, we are recording. We will try and get the recording out tomorrow if we possibly can. So look out for that. We will be recording it. We're using Zoom. It usually works. There's a reasonable chance it won't, but it usually does. So for now, let's go on the base that this is likely to work. Today's session is going to be, if anybody who was on the session I did with John Logan recently about building a business as if you were going to sell it, even if you didn't intend to, you'll notice from that session, that wasn't a death by PowerPoint session. That was John and I having a conversation. And that style of presentation seemed to go down really, really well. We got some fantastic feedback on that format. And so we're going to follow through with the same format today. So Alex and I will be having a conversation. I'll introduce Alex properly just in a moment, but that's the way we're going to do this thing. I want everybody to take lots of notes. What we're going through today, the impact of today's topic has dramatically influenced my business for the better. And not just my business, actually, my life for the better. So it's something I care about deeply. It has a very, very positive impact. And I want to share that with you and share everybody some of the learnings that I've had and that Alex has had through our experiences. So with that said, for those of you who don't know me, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Rob Warner. I'm the founder here at InvisiblePPC. So I'm kind of run this show. And today, our guest is the wonderful Mr. Alex Schlinsky. Now, Alex and I have known each other for quite a while now, probably a year or so now.
Yep.
Alex actually presented to our Black Label group earlier in the year. We got some fantastic feedback from that and some friendships and some business relationships started as a result of that session. I was keen today to get Alex in front of our wider agency partner audience, which is why today is happening. Because Alex has got some great experience. Alex and I had the pleasure of finally getting to meet face-to-face in Austin a couple of weeks ago. So for those of you who don't know, I spent a couple of weeks in Austin, Texas, did some presentations for Digital Marketer over at their agency event, and then did some things for John Logan at his agency event. And one of the happy byproducts of that was Alex and I got to meet because Alex and I both went to the same place. For those of you who don't know this, I will share a small personal detail about my life that maybe you don't need to know, maybe you never need to know, but it's a little insight onto my world. I kind of have a moderately uncomfortable obsession with dueling piano bars. So if you see me at a conference event anywhere, I can guarantee you that the first thing that I will do when I get there is find out, is there a dueling piano bar in town? If there is, That's where you'll find me from probably the moment it opens to the moment it closes, unless I'm going to speak. So last time I was in Austin, they, much to my delight, had a dueling piano bar. And I dragged a bunch of people over there. In fact, my first conversation went like this. We're at dinner, there's about a dozen of us. I said, I'm going to the dueling piano bar. I don't care if you're coming or not, but it'd be great if you did. But if you're not, I'm still going anyway by myself. And we had about a dozen people in there, and we had an absolute blast of an evening. So if anybody goes to Austin or the Shout House in San Diego, I could also recommend. They're the best places. The downside of all this is that Alex didn't come. So Alex was out with his lovely wife, Shira, and they didn't come with us because they were out doing something else. So that's maybe for next time he goes, Alex will learn. I'm hoping Alex is coachable. My coaching point for today is, Alex, go to the dueling piano bar. It's the best.
I didn't get to go, and now I feel bad about it.
And you should. Your life is worse for not having gone. You'll be better next time. So Alex and I have known each other for a while now. Alex runs something called Prospect on Demand, which is he also runs a digital agency. So he has his own agency, and he also trains agencies on how to prospect, how to generate clients, and generally how to be a better agency. So Alex has some great perspective on this. Alex has also coached one-to-one in the region of about 100 business owners. And so has a massive amount of experience in the coaching space, in the mentorship space. And for my part, I don't coach many people. We do it sometimes. It's not something I spend a lot of time doing, but I've seen the other side of this. And I've seen the impact it can have. And the impact for me personally, I've been involved in various styles of coaching and masterminding arrangements. And we'll talk about some of those styles today. Has been immense. And I would like everybody to leave this call today with an understanding of the impact that getting involved in coaching and mentoring can have on your business and your personal life, the benefits it can bring you, the different options that are out there in terms of mentorship and coaching, and give you some forward direction on it. And I hope everybody leaves here with a sense of this is something they should at least be very, very seriously considering in some form for their business. So check in. Is that good, guys? Is that a good agenda for today? Everybody happy with that? Fantastic. So yes, he's coming into the chat. And with that said, welcome to Mr. Alex Schlinsky. A proper formal welcome to the call.
Thank you, Rob. I'm excited to be here. Hope everyone is doing well today. We've got some great things to share with you here today. Ultimately, our goal on this call is to provide you with the insight you need to help you grow your business, to find out what the next steps are for you to really elevate and cut your learning curve, and ultimately figure out what might be the best coaching situation for you, whether that's something you want to do right now, later on, or in the future. But today, basically, Rob and I are going to have a conversation about it, the impact we've had, the results we've seen, and the best ways that we've gone about growing our lives personally and professionally through coaching and mentorship. So we appreciate y'all being here. I see a lot of familiar faces, so it's great to see you guys. And I'm excited, Rob. I'm excited to be here.
Cool. So let's get this kicked off then, Alex. Let's start with the most obvious question. Why should somebody get involved with coaching and masterminds? What are they going to get out of it?
So I think the easiest answer to that is knowledge acquisition. I think that's the fastest and most simple answer to that question. The reality of it is you want to have in life and in business the opportunity for someone that's been where you want to be to give you advice and the roadmap to get there. It's very simple. We see it in all walks of life. A great example, obviously, is parents, right? Father figures, mentors and guidance counselors at schools, mentors and guidance counselors in career paths. These are people that have been somewhere that you want to be, and they are giving you guidance. I have this line that I use in Prospecting on Demand, that we're climbing the mountain of success together. And the reason why I go that route is because I want to kind of buck the trend of the notion that there's this singular ladder to success. And in order to get there, you have to throw the person off that's ahead of you and step on their head and to get higher up the rung. But that's not how I see it. In mentorship, what really actually is happening is someone is a couple feet or a couple dozen feet ahead of you on the mountainside. And they say, hey, if you go left, you're going to slip and fall down a few rungs. But if you go right, you're going to be right up here with me, being able to accomplish whatever that I have that you're looking to. That's what I believe is the benefit of mentorship as a whole. There's a lot more to it, but I think the easiest example, again, is the parents' example. When you're younger and you're doing probably things your parents tell you not to do, they know that you might not listen to every single thing they tell you to do. But the reality is they've either experienced something that you have not yet to, and they're trying to avoid you having to deal with the consequences. Now, it's your choice at the end of the day to take the action or not. You listen to your parents or you don't, same as much as you would listen to a coach, a mentor, a guidance counselor, whatever it might be. And then you will reap the rewards or suffer the consequences. You just have to find out who is the right mentor for you, because just because someone tells you to go route A doesn't mean that you shouldn't go route B. And I think that's really what mentorship is all about, and the power of mentorship as a whole.
I think that's really interesting. One of the things I find, and I'll talk about my experience as we go through, is that you often, it's usually a perspective of an answer and a perspective of the clarity that it gives you that says, you can go that path that you've described. However, understand the consequences of doing it. Often, I find we as individuals, we all have cognitive bias. We all have preconceptions. We all have things that we intrinsically believe about any given situation. That kind of gut reaction. And so when you're debating a course of action and a path to go down, you're doing it from a perspective where in most cases you've already got an idea of the path that feels the most comfortable to you. And what you tend to do in those situations is you stop looking for other paths. You don't look for the other route. As Alex mentioned, you see the one that you've got. You may give a cursory examination to one or two others, but actually you were already pretty set on the one you're going to do. And one of my experiences of coaching and mentoring is that a good mentor and a good coach will go, okay, let's look at the goal you're trying to achieve. Let's understand what that truly is and what it really means. Okay, you have identified one path to get there. Let's explore the others in a neutral environment without any preconceptions, without any biases, and really walk them through. And sometimes do that with some critical thinking tools or with some supporting techniques. I've done that a number of times. Rarely do I end up with the answer that I started with, and the one that I thought would, and that I could have been fully committed to that answer when I went into that session. I can go in with something, as far as I'm concerned, is a done deal in my head, and I'm running it through with somebody more or less as valid. I want validation actually sometimes at the start of a conversation. What I end up with is challenge and an answer. And when you reflect back on those conversations, I often find myself going, holy crap, I am really glad I checked that. Otherwise, I would have just made a huge mistake. I would have just left a lot of money on the table. I would have done something that would set me back. And one of the things that you find is you don't necessarily know that before you start. And I don't know if that's typical of what you see, Alex.
No, it definitely is. And you brought up such a great point there to understand the difference between an accountability partner, someone that supports you, that can validate what you want to say, versus someone that guides you. I think that's very important. I think a mentor is meant to guide you, not just validate. And I tell this to everyone I work with, the idea of, look, I'm not here to be a yes man. There's a different person between me being at a bar with you versus me being on a coaching call with you. I'm not there to tell you everything is roses and daisies. I'm trying to get you to follow a specific path and process in order to hit the goal that you have. If it so happens that you've already created a great plan for that and we can optimize it and make it great, awesome, validation. But there's a big difference between mentorship and accountability partner, and both of them matter. But it's always important to understand, just having help in general there's a real isolation as entrepreneurs, real isolation. We all want to say how amazing it is that we all work from home, or we have an office and we can do it all ourselves, and we have some teams in California and in India and in Singapore and England and everywhere. It's great. But also many times you might just sit there and think, I feel a little bit alone.
Yeah.
Well,
can I actually ask that question?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Anybody on the chat, just put in the message box. If you ever get that sense of being isolated or alone as a business leader, particularly when you're working by yourself from home, whoever gets that, who feels that isolation?
Of course.
Yeah, people saying, yeah, it's a great expression. It's a lonely contact sport, and it really is. And I think as well, if you're a business owner, when you have a team of people, even if they're those people who are on your team, and one of mine's just leaving the office now, good night, Vicky. There are things you can't discuss with your team sometimes. There are things that, may be issues that concern your team. And you need that voice, and you need that voice sometimes as well from.
So this is a great example, Rob. Just a couple months ago, if you recall, I had a question that I needed not mentorship on, but support, guidance, validation, and I went to you, and we got on a call and we spoke about it. You shared some things with me, I shared some things with you, and the point of that call wasn't a monetary transaction; it was an insight transaction. The opportunity to say, okay, right now what I'm trying to have here is validation on this point with your optimization, with your thought process in it. And we went back and forth on that. That's different than mentorship. There's guidance and support, and then there's mentorship. And I want you to understand the difference. I think.
Well, can we dive into that for a little bit, Alex? Let's talk about different structures and different approaches that we can take. So let's start with mentorship then. You mentioned that first. How you would define or describe mentorship?
So I define a mentor as someone that, again, has been where you want to be and can help you achieve the goal that you have set forth. I don't believe you should be working with a mentor that has not accomplished what you set out to accomplish, simply because there's going to be better fits for you elsewhere. Basically, a mentor is someone that has a process in place. I'm not a big fan of mentorship where the lead or the client, the mentee, comes into the calls, and what they basically do is, here's everything I did, respond to that. A mentor doesn't react. They're proactive. They're giving the guidance. They're giving you the process. They're telling you what to do. And as a mentor, that was the biggest learning experience I had. When I started in mentorship, I was doing a lot of reacting. And I was realizing I wasn't providing the best opportunity for my clients because I was reacting so much rather than being proactive and giving them the process. When you work with a mentor, you're not looking for only reactions. Yes, you want reactions, but you're looking for proactivity. What are you supposed to do? What is the process you're meant to take? With the opposite side, just someone that's support or an accountability partner, which is immensely powerful, you want reaction. You want, here's the process, here's what I've got. What are your thoughts on that? There is a big difference between those two.
Okay, so let's look at that as the next step. So in between mentorship and accountability, how do you see coach fitting in? Is that another word for a mentor, or is that something different in your view?
In my opinion, coach and mentor are interchangeable. It just depends on what type of coach. So there's lots of different types of coaches. There's life coaches, which have nothing really to do with business or professional life. It's more of how to be productive, how to be your best self, how to stay out of your head, all those types of things. Then there's business coaches, which I would basically say as mentors. But if we're talking specifically in the business space, I would say mentor and coach, in my opinion, would be the same thing. That would be the same thing in my eyes. I could see why some people would define mentor more as someone that might not just be doing coaching calls with you, but they're just someone you can call up and say, hey, here's my process, here's what's going on, I'm your protege, that kind of thing. But
and to reinforce that point, actually, let me just make a quick example. So I have a business coach. Some of you have been on webinars where he did a session similar to this with me last year. A guy called Dan Bradbury. Some of you may know Dan. Super, super smart guy. So I've been a coaching client of Dan probably for 18 months now. And the reason that I picked Dan as a coach was one specific reason. At the time, we were doing a deal with a large US-based entity. Hundreds of times our size. And I wanted guidance on how to do that. And of the people I knew who were in the coaching space who could provide advice and guidance, he was the person who had done a deal as a little company to a big company. He sold his company to Infusionsoft, and still to this day is a shareholder in Infusionsoft. So I found the person with the past experience of doing the thing I wanted to do. That was why I started with him. I stayed with Dan for very different reasons, but that was the reason that we engaged in the first place. He'd walked down the path I was about to start walking down.
That's what it is. That's all you're trying to have in mentorship and guidance and coaching. One of the really important things you said is how you found them, which we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes. But one of the other keys are like the different types of mentors or coaches or guidance or support. I would say that there's a lot more than you might believe. So I'll kind of break down a couple. First of all, a boss can be a mentor. A boss can be a mentor if you're transparent in the front end saying that I want to supersede where I'm currently at in my business and professional life. I'd like to work under you now, but you will help me catapult beyond you in the future. And if they're willing to do that, that can be a mentor relationship. Partners can also be mentors. Someone that has a lot more experience than you and they mentor you to help get to their level or greater, that can also be a mentor. Someone that is your mentor could ultimately figure out that you have a skill set that aligns with them, that supplements or complements their skill set, and you can create a JV from that, right? You can create new employees from that. So there's lots of different models, but the main different ones I think most people think in business-wise is one-on-one coaching, group coaching, or one-on-one not with the head of the coaching program. So I'll start with one-on-one, and one-on-one essentially would be a portioned out amount of time with a specific timeline and process in place to achieve an X goal. You want to always set out a goal when you work with a mentor, ideally before you invest, so that you can make sure that what you have expectations wise can be hit. It's very important, obviously, that you hit the expectations and get the results. I tell this to my clients, and Rob, I know you use this too. Mentorship and guidance and investing in your business, it's never a cost. If it's a cost, then that person's failed you. They failed you. There needs to be a return on that investment. It doesn't only need to be financial. It needs to be emotional, supportive, physically. All of the opportunities to have return on any investment, not just financial, is absolutely critical when you're working with someone as a mentor. So one-on-one, again, kind of a process laid out, specifically working with the mentor. And then there's group coaching. Group coaching is something like the Black Belt community you have. Elite that I have for prospecting on demand. I like group coaching actually a little more than one-on-one. I think it's great that you're going to see and learn from challenges and the questions that other people just like you have. Everyone on this call right now, like we asked a question a couple minutes ago, and how many of you said yes, feeling isolated, right? That creates camaraderie. That creates an opportunity to say, hey, I'm not alone. Someone else understands this. Okay, great. That's valuable. And also, I believe the whole is usually greater than the individual parts. You learn a lot quicker when there's a group of people at the same level as you trying to grow, because everyone can really offer something. Just because someone's a mentor doesn't mean they're not learning from you. They are always. It's absolutely vital that there's a two-way street here. And I believe also the group, they'll have more community of experience, collective experience than just the one individual person. And look, we just need intimate connections as entrepreneurs. We want people that get it, people that understand where we've been and what we want to do. And that's why I think I like group coaching a lot. But those are basically the two types of coaching. Have you seen those, Rob?
I have, and I'll add to that as well, because I've participated in lots of things that essentially are masterminds. And I've done a couple of different formats of those, and I'll just touch on those. So I've been in and am in. So I'm in a mastermind currently, which is what we call a peer mastermind. There is no leader of that mastermind. We have an organizer who coordinates where we're going to meet, when we're going to meet, and make sure that people turn up. But fundamentally, it's a bunch of colleagues who've got complementary businesses, complementary skill sets, and we go with the primary intention is to share our learning amongst our peers. And because we often find, what we've applied in one type of business can be applied just as well in another. Now, they're all digital businesses, they're all service businesses, but we fundamentally or we'll spend 2 days taking it in turns in a hot seat format to go, here's what I've done, here's what you can learn, and here's how you can help me. And I find in that kind of environment, you learn as much from the help you give to others as you do from the help you ask for yourself. And you learn a ton of stuff. It's the same as a group coaching that Alex just described. Just being in the environment, you learn a whole bunch of things. I've also been, and I actually still am, although I'm about to leave a mastermind tomorrow, and I'll explain why. A leader-led mastermind where there is a focal point of the coaching, like the coach or the leader who has multiple people. I've done them physically and digitally, where there is a format, there is a structure, but that person leads the meeting. They lead the thing. They lead the coaching. It comes back to them for the final say in the coaching. Both of those I've had immense value out of. One final slight twist on this that I've also done is a boardroom style, which is a bit like a group mastermind, but where you have the coach who acts as the chairman of the board. He's in charge. And then each of the participants presents their board report, and you act as if you were board members of their business. And that's tough. That they can be tough sessions. Yes. If you've ever had a board of your own, some of these can be brutal. That you're not there to have an easy day and present what a great job you've done. If you think that's what you're there for, be prepared for a very rude awakening, because quite often it can be harder than having a real board, but the insights that you learn from that challenge are fabulous.
Agreed. And I would want to ask everyone here, has anyone had a mentor so far, and what type of mentorship was that? So we can kind of understand where you're coming from as well. And I think what we'll do now is, I'll share a personal story of mine. Rob was just explaining some of the mentorships that he's had. And right before we went live here today, I told Rob one thing that if I would change, and I never talk this way, but we were just kind of going back and forth here. I never go back and think about what I could change because it's a useless endeavor. But we were talking in this idea about mentorship. And the one thing I would change if I was to go back to the beginning of my entrepreneurial career would have been, instead of buying course material, I would have invested sooner in one-on-one mentorship, and one-on-one specifically, because if I was in a group at that point, I would not have had anything to bring to the table. And I was not trying to be an anchor. And I wanted to have that quicker opportunity to kind of cut my learning curve. Instead, I went the longer route and went through my own learning curve, meaning making mistakes and trying to figure it out by cutting my learning curve minimally through investing in a course. And that's, where I've lived this motto by, and I use this all the time. And it's so incredibly important to hear what I'm about to say. Listen closely to this quote. Income issues are not an earning problem. Income issues are not an earning problem. They're an investment problem. Investing in your business and in yourself is absolutely key. The only thing I would change if I was to go back would be to invest faster. I'll give you an example. I usually try to work with 2 to 5 mentors per year. And basically when I leave mentorship, it's when I feel that I've plateaued with that person, not that they're in any way not good at what they do. I've just reached a point that I feel satisfied with that mentorship, and now I'm ready to move on. That's kind of how I go about my processes. And so far this year, we've already done 2. And one of the people I worked with helped me make massive changes in my business that freed up hours and hours of my time and also allowed me to coach my students better. So it's a double whammy for me, and that's super valuable. It's the same thing if you're trying to grow an agency and your coach helps you then help the businesses you work with while also helping your business. So win, win, win. Win for you, win for the coach, and win for the people you work with. And that's what I'm always looking for, and what I've experienced both in coaching myself as well as being coached and having a mentor. One other thing I'll share here that I think will give you some really good clarity is understanding that also a mentor can save you. It's not always about how amazing it's been with financial growth. It's not just that. It's also personal growth and saving you from potentially making a decision that you're not satisfied with. And I'll tell you about that now. When I graduated college, I graduated with a psychology degree and a minor in crime law and deviance. I wanted to go into forensic psychology. I had my first externship in 2000, I think it was 2010. Wow, that's a long time ago already. Holy God, crazy, time flies. 2010. And the first thing was we went to a battered women's shelter to do interviews that day. And the first day I could immediately recognize that this mentor, he tells me, look, this is not fairy tale land. This is real life. This is a very brutal job. If you can't take it, then you're not cut out for this. And I knew that day, leaving that first time I met the mentor, I was like, this is not right for me. And I was saved because of that. I was able to change my career trajectory to do something that I feel fulfilled in, something that I enjoy, something that was fantastic. Did I feel great that day? No, I felt like I was back at square one, that I just wasted 4 years of college and student debt to do something that now I'm not going to go into it. But that catapulted me here 8 years later to where I'm at now. And I feel better than I've ever been before. So it's not just a financial growth. It's not just the impact of what they can help you do. It's also what they can help you not do. And that's something that I wanted to make sure I shared in this mastermind, because I think it's critical to hear that it's not always this positive growth. It's also stopping something from opening a door that maybe you don't want to open.
And I'll thank you. That's really useful, actually, Alex. And I'll share a couple of points that I've found personal experience from. So the first one, I'm going to take a liberty and quote Dan Bradbury. One of the things he repeatedly will say to me is, a business cannot grow beyond the abilities of its leader. And it's true. We are where we are in our businesses because our business is a reflection of our skills and our effort level to this point. It's as simple as that. If you're not improving as a business leader, why would you expect your business to improve? And that's something that's come up often with me. One of the frequent other conversations that Dan and I have is about risk in business. And it's about, what can you do to avoid taking risk in this way? How do you mitigate this risk? Because you can't grow a business that's dead. One of the first rules to business growth is have a business that is alive. And businesses are alive when they have cash in the bank and they're able to meet their obligations and they're able to do things. If you take your eye off that ball, it's really easy to end up in a position where you have the best growth plan in the world, but you're out of business. And, not doing some of those stupid things is often the best way to avoid it, to avoid any problem in the future.
Absolutely. And there's one point that I want to talk about, and we can transition into this, about knowing when knowing when and how to find a mentor. When's the right time? And Rob was just talking about risk and the idea of understanding and measuring where your business is at right now. And I think one of the easiest ways right now in your head, as you listen to this, one of the easiest ways to figure out where you need mentorship is, take a second to take a step back, because I know we're so engrossed in day-by-day client activity, prospecting, sales calls, working with our company, trying to do 20 things, personal life. If you take a step back for a second and look at your value chain, look at the value chain in your business. That's how I, by the way, make assumptions in my business where there's a bottleneck. I guarantee right now, every single person on this call, anyone watching on replay, Rob himself, and me myself would look at a value chain of our business and say, there's a bottleneck there. Something can be improved there. There is a piece of this puzzle that's either missing, needs to be optimized, or needs to be changed to have explosive growth. The only thing really holding you back from explosive growth is that mindset, is that committing to that problem in your business. Now, here's the crazier part. A lot of the times you might say to yourself over and over again what the problem is and never do anything about it. Entrepreneurs are masters of working on and fixing surface level problems. They very rarely go to the root of the problem, right? The root of the problem is probably productivity or lack of an SOP or not having the right team member in place, having the right direction. Whatever that root problem is, you end up going to try to solve, how do I make that Facebook ad convert better? How do I make sure that this lead magnet is working? That's not the root of the problem, right? You have to find the root of the problem. And I think that's a really, really big and most important key in your business.
It is, and I'll add to that as well. One of the insights I often get when I do coaching with people and when I'm being coached is, if somebody comes to me or I go to somebody with a question or a problem, and we work through that problem or question as a subject of our coaching call, maybe for an hour, maybe for 30 minutes, maybe 90 minutes sometimes. One thing that I would say happens 95% of the time is the question that gets answered is not the question that I started with. I was asking the surface level question, solving the surface level problem. I was solving the wrong problem from my perspective, possibly because it's comfortable, possibly because that's what I can see.
Absolutely.
But the right coach, the right mentor will force you to ask better quality questions, get better quality answers. And it's a really difficult thing to buy into, because if you have said to me, what are you expecting to get out of a particular call? Even if that call has cost me, I don't know, $500, for example, as part of a coaching plan, what am I going to get out of that coaching call? It's really hard to quantify up front. But when you get back on it and you look back afterwards, you see the value, because you didn't know. It's what people say. You don't know what you don't know. And just sometimes having the right external lens applied to a problem can create a massive breakthrough. In my personal experience, one of the things that I've enjoyed, and the very first, it was a mastermind, but it was a leader-led mastermind group that I first joined, my very first one. And like Alex, I've joined several. I'll talk about that. I used to find I would solve more problems in my business in one day in a room of 8 people, of which I had a 1-hour slot, than I would in the rest of the month.
Oh, absolutely.
Of the month. So
Absolutely.
One day where only 1 hour is focused on me, 1 hour out of 8, I get one. And I get dinner afterwards when we go out somewhere nice for food, and a few glasses of wine and whatever. But I would come back with more outcome from that, and more meaningful output as well. That's one of the things. It's not solving where to file the paper clips. It's not solving what coffee maker should we have in the office. It's solving the big stuff. And I would do more in a day than I would in the rest of the month put together.
I agree with that, and I've seen that happen many times. Both myself and the students that I work with. That's the most valuable part of the process, is finding what is valuable to you and what really resonates with you. There's not a one fit solution for everyone. This is not what Rob and I want to explain on today's call. The process is, how do you continually excel? One of the big things that Rob and I spoke about before this is the idea that we're both coaches and mentors to people, but yet we have coaches and mentors. And some people might look at that and think, I don't get it. Why are you still learning, right? Why are you still needing a mentor if you're mentoring? And that's the idea, right? Rob and I are never going to be arrogant enough to say we know everything. We can't get better. That would be silly. It would be asinine. We're always trying to improve because we have goals ourselves to hit. We have people that rely on us to work with them, families, right? Not just clients, not just people, families that rely on us to grow and allow themselves to create opportunities that they believe they couldn't have before. One of the things I wanted to talk about on today's call, and I think this will be a great segue again on how to really find the right mentor for you, is understanding what defines success as entrepreneurs. And what defines success as entrepreneurs, however you go about dictating what success is, whether it's a Lamborghini or $100,000, might be anything. It doesn't matter. Whatever you define success as, though, successful entrepreneurs typify productivity and perseverance. Productivity and perseverance. If you can find someone that can help you be more productive and can help you get up when there's a no, or get up when you fall on your ass and make a mistake, that's someone that you want to be working with. Productivity and perseverance. Productivity means you are always at your peak. You're always moving forward, taking the right actions, progressing, staying on that yellow brick road, not getting distracted by 10,000 shiny objects, not trying to fix only surface level problems instead of going to the root because you're uncomfortable. Staying productive matters. That's a big deal. And then persevering is key. I'll tell you guys a baseball stat. I'm not even a baseball fan, but I love this stat because it really hits home on numbers. Because I think entrepreneurs put way too much pressure and onus on each individual situation. Like, if I don't make this sale today, everything is going to fall apart, which is basically never the case. What happens is, in baseball, the greatest players of all time bat about 30%, meaning they hit the ball 3 out of 10 times. 3 out of 10 times. That's less than a failing grade back in school, right? But the Hall of Famers, the greatest players ever, average like 3. I don't think anyone in their career ever averaged 4 out of 10 hits, ever, in the history of a 200-year sport. that should give you some insight to understanding, hey, if you only have a 25% sales rate, that's okay. That's okay. If you're only getting 2 out of 10 people to say yes to your prospecting offer, that's okay. Stop focusing on this just abundance mindset and persevere until you create a process that works consistently for you. Productivity and perseverance. If a mentor and coach can help you maximize those 2 words, you will become successful however you want to dictate it.
Yeah, and that actually touches on something as well, which is accountability. In that a good coach or a good mentor or a good mastermind will hold you accountable. And part of that accountability is just showing up. I mean, so I look at this a few minutes. One of the commitments of one of the peer masterminds I'm in is that once a month on a Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is not great for me, we have a group call, and you are expected to show up. And if you don't show up on a consistent basis, you'll be asked to leave. You're not contributing. And I mentioned I was about to leave a mastermind tomorrow. There's a really simple reason why I'm leaving that mastermind. This group are my friends. I love them dearly. But their meetings are the last Wednesday of the month. And I've been away for 3 of the last meetings, and I'll be away for 5 of the next 7 meetings. I love them. They're my friends. I would do anything for them. We've been working together for a couple of years, well, for 4 years now. I can't be a good participant, so it's only fair on them and me that I recognize that and I leave the group.
Agreed.
But on the flip side of that, so just finish that off. The right people hold me accountable to that. They hold me accountable to turning up. They hold me accountable to preparing. One thing, again, a good coach will do is insist you do your prep. You know, make sure you I'm sure everybody here has done it at some point, and I've done it too. I'm not perfect. Shown up to be coached when you come on the call late, frantic, and you have no idea what you're going into that call for because you're unprepared and you're out of it. That is not the way to show up. There is as much value sometimes in preparing for the call, in making the time and doing the work to get to the call
100%.
or the meeting or whatever it might be, as actually doing it yourself, because it forces
100%.
you to think about the difficult stuff. And
absolutely, if you're uncomfortable at least once a day, you're doing something right. And that's how you should be thinking, specifically in the mastermind side and coaching side. You should be uncomfortable because they're pressuring you into doing something that you're not used to yet because they know the results that are going to come from it. And Rob and I were joking before this, someone that's on this call right now, Kyle, he's probably the greatest client I've ever had the opportunity to work with because every single time we talk, he always implements. And then he gets great results because he's implementing. He never comes on our conversations and I didn't do anything this week. Sorry. And it happens. I get it. There's distractions and things and it's life. I understand. But you have to prioritize. Prioritizing your life is key. It's absolutely key. If you just don't prioritize, you go day by day through the motions, you're not going to succeed the way you want to. It's simple
and that's
as that.
part of what you're actually paying for. You are paying in some respects. Let's assume it's a paid mastermind or a paid coaching environment. Not all of them are. Some are, some aren't. Part of what you are paying for, part of your commitment and your win is the permission that part of your job, part of your day is to set aside quality thinking time, quality preparation time to improve your business, because you're then going to have a conversation with somebody or a group of people who are going to help you make that even better. And I guarantee you, every time, whatever idea you think you've got in with, they will make it better.
I love that. I love that.
You're buying the right. I mean, that sometimes it's the price that you pay is to permission to put a day in your diary of preparation time and not feel bad about it.
Absolutely. 100%. And I talk about this actually a lot. So I'll talk to you about the benefits of investing in a mastermind versus free information. So here's the kind of my personal story about this. Okay. When I started my marketing agency, like I said, I mostly purchased courses. And I got to a pretty solid level, could figure this process out. And I started to hone in on what my skill sets were, which was prospecting and sales, which ended up becoming my course that I made. But I started to recognize there were certain things that I just needed help on. Like I felt isolated. I felt like I didn't have support or accountability, that I wasn't being productive enough. I wasn't hitting my goals. I wasn't sure what KPIs to track. I had some questions that I just could not answer myself yet. And I knew I needed help. Thankfully, in the social world we live in, the opportunities are amazing. I don't have to go to the library anymore to go try to find a book about it. I can literally find anything online in a second, or I can go on and go to a free group on Facebook and just gather intel from there, asking a question. But then it was this weird problem that I had. I figured out the solution to the problem I had, which was the problem was I felt isolated. I needed answers. I needed accountability. I needed help. Okay, free groups was in there. Then the opposite reaction happened though. I started to get conflicting information. I started to get bombarded with other ideas. I started to feel jealous about other people's success, which is the worst thing ever. I don't want to feel that way. That's garbage. That's just a garbage thing to feel. And then on top of that, I started to get information overload, which gave me paralysis by analysis. And then I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And it was a horrible reaction what I had, because I thought I figured the solution out, and then the solution created a bigger problem. That's an example of fixing a surface level problem to let it kind of breed more issues. So what did I end up doing? I then, for the first time, invested in a mastermind program, not a mentorship program, one-on-one mastermind group program. And my growth exploded. What I did was I refined my focus. I prioritized my time. I removed myself from all the free groups. I took myself off of Facebook completely, and I focused in on that mastermind and achieving what I needed to do. Because I knew if I was productive, I have belief in myself that I can't be stopped, as I'm sure many of you have, right? You have the belief in yourself that if you have the process in place, you cannot be stopped. If you have support in place and questions to be answered, you can't be stopped. That's how I felt, and that's what started happening. You have to identify right now, are you going to go after free information and are you going to let it bog you down, or you're going to focus in on a specific group, or are you going to invest in yourself so that you can only prioritize, and the coach and mastermind itself will prioritize it for you? And I think that's really, really important that you really decide that process as you go along. And then one other point I want to make here, Rob, is how to actually know when you need the mentorship. Like I said, the value chain.
Go for it. Let's talk about when is the right time.
I want to make this so simple, so simple. This is the easiest way to find out right now. So I said there's a value chain, right? And I can break those down, but it's maybe 7 or 8 steps. It might be too much for you to handle. So I'm going to make this super simple. And by the way, business in general, life in general, simplicity wins, right? Anyone can make something complex. It's a lot harder to win with something that's simple. Keep that in mind, okay? Here's the 3 tenets to every business. Every single business on this planet has the same 3 tenets. Prospecting, so leads are consistently coming in. You can call that marketing if you want. Prospecting or marketing for leads always coming in. Sales, converting those leads into clients paying you on retainer monthly. And then fulfillment, meaning you fulfill the service that you just sold to the lead that you prospect or marketed to. That's it. Prospecting or marketing, sales, and fulfillment. Those are the 3 tenets to every business. Some people call it attract, convert, and fulfill. Whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter, but those are the 3 tenets. When you think of it right now in your business, what is the biggest weakness for you of those 3 tenets? Is it prospecting and marketing? Is it sales? Is it fulfillment? Which one is your problem?
Guys, which is your weakest area right now?
Feel free to let us know. And then what you want to do is you want to seek out that information. Google is your friend. Seek out that information. Seek out that information. So Phil Harris, for example, says, I need more at-bats. And Phil, I'll be here to help you with prospecting. That's what I do. So I'm here. Fulfillment, right? Tim, guess what Rob does? He does fulfillment for marketing agencies, right? We have our skill set specifically based on knowing the 3 tenets of the agencies. This is what happens. If you're struggling with sales, you can either delegate that out or get better at it. You have 2 choices every single time, right? You can either learn how to do fulfillment yourself or outsource it. What is your strength? What is your weakness? But just start with those 3 tenets. It's so simple. If you start with those 3 tenets, you'll be able to find immediately where the problem is. Once you know the problem, you can fix it. It's that classic AA meeting, right? You can't fix the problem if you don't know you have the problem. So be happy when you have a problem, because now you can fix it. Rob said earlier, you don't know what you don't know, right? And a mentor can help you uncover things that you don't know. But you can start by figuring out, and not being ignorant to your problems by starting with the 3 tenets of your business, and then you can fix them from there. In terms of methods of how to get them in, Facebook ads are probably slapping you in the face every single day. So take a look at what some of those and see if they fit what your tenant problem is. Does that make sense to you, Rob?
That makes perfect sense, and it's absolutely true. And let me talk about my personal situation, because this is quite apt and a great example of what mentorship's about. So my very first mastermind I went to, I joined that mastermind with the smallest business in the room, and I left with the biggest business in the room. And I left because I now had the biggest business in the room, which meant that the things that I needed to learn were things that my peers no longer had experience of. So I went and found a different one. But one of the guys in that group, many of you have heard me talk about him before, a guy called John Davey, who is now my chairman of my company, was in that room. And I spent a year with him as a peer in that group, thinking, every time I go here, this guy is the smartest guy in the room. He just knows so much stuff. And ultimately, he joined my business. I pay him now. He has a small share in it, but I also pay him a monthly retainer to act as a mentor and a coach. Yesterday. One of the things that came as an opportunity to us was an opportunity to acquire a business. It's something we're looking at a lot more aggressively at the moment for various different reasons. And we got an opportunity to acquire a business yesterday. It's actually been percolating for a little bit, but it came to a head. And I said, look, John, this guy has an expectation. I don't think we can meet this expectation, but I really want to buy this business. What do we do? And in one phone call that lasted no more than 15 minutes, John described in detail the exact approach to getting this business. We now have a call with the business owner on Monday, hopefully to move that forward towards a close. If you would have asked me to come up with the solution that John came up with, and you'd given me till this time next month, I still wouldn't have the answer that he gave me in 10 minutes. And that's the power of having that kind of relationship. And the reason is he's bought and sold many businesses. It was a set of skills and tools that he's got that he could just call out and go, this is one of those situations. Here's what we do. Go.
And the irony of all great irony, the person on my team who also is part of my team in terms of mentoring, coaching, we work together, his name is also John Davey. And it's not the same. It's not the same John Davey. And that's pretty amazing because that's the exact same story that we have. John joined my program in Prospecting on Demand. I was his mentor for a while. And then I realized he's very intelligent. I wanted to bring him on my team. And he does the same thing that your John Davey does. So it's pretty amazing to see that. And that's just another opportunity in terms of mentorship. Anyone that you connect with ever, in whatever engagement, there's always more to be told in the story. There's always more opportunity. Break those social norms and kind of find your own freelance method of how you want to go about working with someone, and never be afraid to ask. I think that's the biggest one. People ask me things that sometimes they tell me I was so afraid to ask. And maybe, it was a silly question, but who cares? It's totally irrelevant. You're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You got to give it a shot, right? You got to give it a shot. In terms of how to find the right people for you, there's a couple of qualifiers that I'm always looking for when I speak to someone. First of all is they've been, like Rob was just saying, they've been where you want to be, and the peers in that group, whether it's one-on-one or the person himself, the coach, him or herself, is at another level than you. Basically, you're looking up to them, right? You don't only want to be looking down on people, and I don't mean that in any derogatory sense at all. I'm expressing that you can't be the smartest person in the room every time. If you're the smartest person in the room every time, that's a big problem, right? You need to be in rooms of people that elevate you, right? Who can elevate you? That's what you want to start with in a more esoteric sense. Who can elevate you? Second, who has proof of concept? Who has this opportunity for you that has proof? Now, the only other way that I would work with someone that doesn't have proof of concept, that maybe is in beta or getting started, is that they themselves are the proof. They themselves are the proof. I'd ideally rather have someone work with me that has the proof consistently, but at the end of the day, we all start somewhere. We all start with the first client, always, right? Every time. That doesn't mean that first client can't be just as great in terms of results as the 10th or 50th or 100th. Does that mean that the person doesn't optimize and get better? Of course not, but that's still very important to keep in mind. So that's those are a couple of the easiest methods. In terms of getting on a call with someone, some of the things that I'd strongly advise that you ask in terms of these conversations with mentors is someone that has also a supplemental program to that. Now, what that means is I'd rather you focus on a larger investment in yourself and in your time and in your business to work with someone one-on-one where you get replays or a mastermind group, but also having supplemental material so that they don't have to rehash the same things over and over, but rather they can give you more optimized material in the future. And that's really a big tenet of the people that I'm trying to work with. And the idea behind it, again, is to have more material than just the calls, than just the meetings in person. And I think that's really, really important. If they don't have a mentorship program at all, then you can ask them to become a mentor, right? If you bought a course of someone's that you want to take the next level with them, ask them. That's actually how I started my first mentorship. When I started POD, I didn't even consider it. And then someone said, hey, can I just pay you to do this with me? Yeah, let's do that. Right? That's now become my main focus of my business in terms of the prospecting on demand side, not the agency side. But that's really unique how that kind of happens. I think the biggest way of finding someone is seeking out what you want and not being neglectful of advertising. Like, a lot of marketers, for some reason, are really neglectful of advertising because we're super cynical about what the strategy is. Oh, he's using that Russell Brunson. Yeah, he's using it because it works. But just listen to the content rather than trying to break down and funnel hack every single thing, right? I've had so many people tell me about that. They're like, Alex, I see you using this model with the stack. Yes, because it works. But also listen to the content. Don't just try to break down what we're talking about here because it will help you. So don't be neglectful of advertising. I think that's a big thing. You know, these people are trying to target you, hopefully to help you. And I think that's really, really key in the long run. What other methods, Rob, have you seen in terms of finding, the right mentors?
I'll be honest, I've been very, very blessed in that my mentors have all tended to find me. But part of that is I put myself in situations where it's possible. So part of it, if you want to find a mentor, go to an event that's run by somebody who mentors or coaches. If you think or suspect that person might be of interest to you, go to one of their events. Ask the people at the event, who do you pay for coaching? How do you get the results? So for me, it's a really difficult thing to see because if you can't Google business coach and expect to get the right answer because it's so many different things to different people. But I find the power of my own personal network tends to mean that network masterminds and coaches and mentors find me. And then it's about me making the effort. So let me tell you how, I'll tell you how I hooked up with Dan Bradbury. And this is true story. And it's not all good. I saw an event Dan Bradbury was running in London. And he was running it, and one of the speakers at that event was Jay Abraham, somebody I wanted to see speak for a long time. And I was going to buy a ticket for the event. In fact, I did buy a ticket for the event. And then they said, oh, we're taking sponsorship. I thought, I know. If I go down and sponsor a booth, I get to go down for 2 days, and I'll come back with more money in my pocket than I went with, and I still get to see Jay Abraham. That's going to be a better outcome than buying a ticket. So I bought a booth, went down, saw Jay Abraham. Side note, he wasn't very good. Wasn't very interested in being there, wasn't on it, wasn't a great experience, very disappointing. But I don't believe that's common. I know other people have had fantastic experiences. Personally, I was a bit disappointed. I was also more disappointed by the fact that one of the organizers of the event, Dan Bradbury, was disengaged from his sponsors. And I didn't like that. So his sales team followed up with me afterwards and said, hey, Rob, I think you and Dan would be interested in one of his programs, one of these things. I said, personally, I'm not really. They said, why? I said, I didn't think I was handled that well at his event. And I'm not sure that's the kind of ethics of somebody I want to deal with. And they said, fair, understand what you're saying, but actually he's just a bit shy in that environment. Get into a room with him, won't charge you, come down, have a morning with him, see how I feel at the end of that morning. And if you like it, then we can decide if it's something you want to pursue. If it isn't, don't. And I went down and I spent time and got massive value. And I've been working with them for 2 years since, or thereabout. It's actually about 2 years now. The point is, I wanted to find a mentor. I wanted to find a coach. I put myself in an environment where I could make it happen, where it was likely I'd find people, if not him, somebody else who was in that kind of environment who would be of interest to me. And I went forward and I took the steps. And that's what it's about, because it is a hard thing to find. But in our networks, our peers, our connections, calls like this, we all know people who can do great work for the right person. We didn't have a personality fit at the start. We had an intellectual fit on what I wanted to achieve. We now get on great, and he's a fantastic guy, and we're friends.
I love
but
that.
It didn't start out that way. And sometimes
I think one of the big things, Rob, that you're making a point there is someone that has integrity, that's willing to also say no to you. It's clearly not making a sale by any means necessary, but trying to find the right fit. And I've experienced that on both sides, saying, hey, this is not going to be a good fit for me and you to work together. And also on the other end of the spectrum, where I'm trying to get someone, literally I'm ready to pay someone, and they're like, no, this person's going to be better for you. If that person, that someone tells you that, that is a real sign of integrity. Yeah. That is a real sign of integrity.
We both know. A common friend, a mutual friend of Alex's and mine is John Loga.
Yes, great guy.
And I know many people who have tried to hire John as a coach.
And he says no.
Many people, me included. And he says, no, I'm not the right guy for you. And here's why. So absolutely. A sign of a good coach, ask them how many people they've turned down. Ask them how often they say no.
I love
and
that.
If the answer is never, run away. Go find somebody else, because that's not the guy for you, or girl, or whoever.
So powerful and so true. I've had that experience. And plus, to also side note on the other point you made about going to an event first, I'm doing that exact thing. In July, I'm going to an event in California to kind of see, I got an invite to see if this would be the right mastermind for my business, and to see if that's great. And they were not pushing in terms of, hey, you need to make a deposit. You need to make the right decision right now. And that's kind of the signs that I'm looking for. The idea of, look, I'm serious about this, and you don't need to worry about if I'm serious or not. I want to make sure that this is the right fit for me, though. And we're talking about, very significant investment time-wise and financially. So you want to make sure that you're making the right decisions for yourself, for your business, for your family, for your clients. These things matter. These things really matter. I also want to make sure, guys, if you have any questions about mentorship, about coaching, about potentially you doing mentorship or coaching, or finding the right mentors, or how the structure should look, or what you should be finding, feel free to ask those questions.
By the way, what do you want to know? What do you want to know about mentoring, coaching, masterminding in any respect? While you're typing some questions in, guys, I'm going to comment on one thing that I think is super important, possibly the most important thing we say today, actually. Sorry, Alex. Is when you shouldn't get a coach. When you shouldn't. And I think there are specific times that you shouldn't get a coach. And I think number one is, if you're not prepared to be coachable, don't hire a coach. You have to go into a coaching or a masterminding relationship prepared to do the work and prepared to learn.
100%.
And with an open mind that the answer you will get often isn't the answer you want, and it isn't the answer you were hoping for, but it might be a better answer. If you are not coachable, then you shouldn't be wasting your time, your money, and somebody else's time putting yourself in that position.
100%.
I can't imagine if you're on a webinar learning about coaching that you are likely to fit that criteria. But nevertheless, I want to get that out there.
One other thing to that point, though, Rob, also is, don't expect magic fairy dust. Like we spoke about this right before we went live. Don't expect that just because you hire someone, you don't have to put in work. There is work involved in this. There is difference between done for you, do it yourself, and done with you. Most coaching and mentorship agreements are done with you, where they're going to, here's the process. Here's what you're supposed to do. Now you take action and we'll report back on our next call. You can't just expect that just like that, everything's going to change. There's a process. There's a process. That's part of being coachable, right? That's part of being coachable, is doing the right things with the right steps in mind. And
Tim, you're right. Tim's made the comment in the chat that the right coach will help you with the correct work.
100%.
And I've used this example time and time and again, and I apologize for everybody that's bored. Today, on a Thursday morning, I have my regular one-to-one with our CrossFit coach. I go to CrossFit sessions 6 days a week. I learn in a group environment every week. But every Thursday that I can, and I'm not always around, I will go down and spend an hour on solving one or two specific problems where I want to get better. And to put that into context, 8 weeks ago, I couldn't do a handstand push-up. This morning, I did a strict one, so straight up and down. This morning, I did 7 without a pause and then went on and did some other sets. I couldn't have done that without the coaching. I wouldn't have learned that. Maybe I'd have got there in 12 months. And acceleration is a really important thing. But Tim, you're absolutely correct. It's correct doing the correct work. I often say it's about doing the right thing with consistency and with intensity.
Oh yeah,
and if you don't know what the right thing, the coach will bring the correct thing. They'll help you find the correct thing. The intensity and consistency, that bit's on you.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're just obsessed with shiny objects. They get distracted so easily. They have a million puzzle pieces and can't figure out how to put it together. A coach will give you a roadmap, will tell you to stop dealing with distractions and help you put the puzzle piece together. I think that's really the main focus of what a coach is meant to do for you, is just to make you better. Just to make you maximize your abilities, because you have amazing abilities. One thing I think everyone should search here today, and I'm more than happy to kind of dive into it more, is one of the first things I do in my coaching agreements, whether it's group, one-on-one, whatever it is a SWOT analysis. Have you guys ever heard of a SWOT analysis? Has anyone ever done that before?
Let's assume. Go ahead. Yeah, just go through it quickly.
A SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What I do is I have my clients go and create their own SWOT analysis. Tell me what you think your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are. And then I'm going to come back and share with you what I believe is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and see how we mesh on that process. That's a great starting line. I use this line all the time, right? Usain Bolt, greatest racer of our generation, the best ever. But would he have been amazing if he started a race without knowing the finish line? Would he be amazing? Well, if it's a 10,000 meter race and he thinks it's a 100 meter race, there's no way he's going to make it to the finish line. Are you running a race without a finish line? That's what a mentor is there to help you do. Create a starting point and a finish line, and then doing it over and over and over again.
Couldn't agree more. So keep questions coming in, guys. We'll pick these up in a second or two. Want to get some more in the chat as we go through. And Alex is right about focus. Focus is really, really key. One of the things that we've done, I've left a mastermind today for one really simple reason. The next 6 months, I want our business to focus on exponential growth. So we've hired a specialist in exponential growth. Funny idea. Find somebody who's been there many times before and hire that person. They've walked down the path. I want to learn from them, so I've hired them. Because for me, that's how we'll get there faster. I don't want to learn. I'm a big fan of iteration and trial and error, but do it with education first. Let's eliminate all the stupid things they could do so that the roadblocks and the bumps in the road that you hit are the little ones along the way. They're not the ones that break your wheels and throw you off the road. They're just, they can get over them. And finding that right person is there. But I recognize as an entrepreneur, and because I make friends with the people I mentor with and coach with, I've had to do the difficult thing and say, thank you, you're great, I like you a lot, but we're no longer going to be working together for at least a period of 6 months because I can't ride 3 horses at once. I just need to ride one horse for a bit, and it's much easier to do.
I agree with that.
And as entrepreneurs, we don't often do that.
I always believe having one type of mentor at a time. So like if you have a one-on-one coach, that's great. And then a mastermind program, I'm okay with that. But if you're in 6 mastermind programs and have 3 different coaches, you're just going to have a million conflicting ideas and you're never going to find a right path. You're going to just overwhelm yourself. Don't do that. I think one of the big things we didn't touch on here yet would be the idea of like objections that people have to coaches. I think the biggest objection is financial. That's the 99%. If you're someone right now thinking to yourself that any investment you make will allow you to create more opportunity for yourself, then maybe this doesn't apply to you. But a lot of people, talk about the investment. Am I going to get the return back? Is this the right step? The reality is it's just a mindset short for you. Again, you are selling businesses on investing. That's what you're selling them. You're selling them opportunity to invest in their business to create more explosive growth, and yet you're questioning whether or not you invest in yourself. One of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got from my first mentor was saying, Alex, look at the revenue you just made last month. Look at your expenses. What if you spent 10 times as much in your expenses? What would have happened to your revenue? And I never thought that way ever. I never categorized in my brain that if I invest more, I will make more. And since that day, all I can think about is how do I invest appropriately to get to the next step for myself? Because I know that every investment I make, even if it's not a monetary return, that knowledge return, that opportunity return, it's going to be absolutely massive. So I just always want to take those expenses and investments.
And I'll clarify that further. Every time I've hired or joined a mastermind or paid for a coach mentor, the level of cost involved in that program or that person has scared me a bit. It's always been at a level where I really, really hope this is a good outcome. I'm doing it because I believe in the outcome that I get. But not once have I bought one where I thought, oh, that's really cheap and affordable. That was easy. They've always been the other way. And the strange thing is, you kind of grow into the expense in that, let's say it's $1,000 a month, for example. $1,000 a month, maybe on the day you first sign that, is a scary amount of money to be laying out of your business in one check. Fast forward 6 months. If your coach and you are working well together, you'll still care about the $1,000, but it will not be the same scary $1,000 that it was when you started.
100%.
It relatively shrinks. And I found I kind of grow myself into my mentors and my coaches. If I'm not scared at the outset, I'm probably not hiring the right level of person to work with me.
I love that. You have to have some sort of discomfort. Right? I use this a lot in my speaking. Being uncomfortable is one step from life's greatest treasures. Every person that has felt uncomfortable in a scenario, when you overcome that uncomfort, first of all, your body has a physiological response to it. Like you literally have a knot in your stomach, your hands sweat, you might have a headache, your stomach might hurt, your knees might feel weak, your arms might feel weak. There's a physiological response to stress, anxiety, and mostly being uncomfortable. But if you overcome that, if you take the action to say, I can do this, I'm accomplishing, I'm going to make this happen, and you push through the uncomfortable, that's when life's most incredible opportunities happen. Every single time. I'll share with you guys a personal story about that, and I think this will give you some insight. I told you already that I wanted to become a forensic psychologist, and then when I figured out through mentorship that it wasn't right for me, I wanted to go into sports writing. I'm a big sports fan, so I thought I would do journalism for the Miami Dolphins. I had no one to be my mentor. I did not know who to seek out. I did not know how to seek them out. So all I did was doing what I know how to do, which is taking immense action. So I called the Miami Dolphins department 60 straight days, 60 days in a row for 2 months before training camp started, just to get the attention of the PR director who would be able to give me an opportunity to get the credential, right? Now I was scared. I was not cut out for this. I did not have a journalism degree. I was not even writing for a company yet. But I called them up and I just kept calling, and through persistence, I got the opportunity and I became a Miami Dolphins media member, a dream of mine since I was 5. Just through persistence, through going through the uncomfortable. I knew that I could handle more no's than they could handle me calling them. Because she was going to get exasperated. The secretary was going to get exasperated before I was. Are you like that? Are you going to allow yourself to be exasperated before the person that you're trying to help? You shouldn't. You should not feel exasperated. You should always push through that uncomfortable and feel the amazing treasure behind it.
And there's a strange thing that goes with that, Alex, as well, is that, and I agree with that completely. And by the way, I'm staggered and impressed with that level of commitment to getting that job. But everything I found is when you finally commit and you push that button on that mentorship, that coaching program, that mastermind, because it scares you that little bit, guess what? You commit to doing the work. You take 100%. It seriously. Suddenly, the day of preparation you need in your calendar opens up because you've made the commitment. You find the time. You find the way. And partly, in my personal belief, I believe the time that it stops becoming a priority, when it gets really comfortable and you don't do the prep, is the time to find yourself another coach, because you've got comfortable. That amount of money, that amount of effort and commitment no longer scares you. So your intensity backs off. And the moment you give up intensity, you give up outcome, because the two are so correlated. So I actually see massive value in committing to coaching that actually scares you a little bit. With that said, I'm about to pitch a $50,000 coaching program. If only I had one, but I don't, so I can't do that. Sorry, guys.
I do. No, I'm just
yeah.
No, but it's so important to really, touch on that notion of the idea of being uncomfortable, and buyer's remorse is like another common one. If you feel any buyer's remorse after a purchase, then you didn't make a decision in a real state of thinking. You made an emotional decision instead. You shouldn't have buyer's remorse. You should be excited about the opportunity. Yeah, you should be nervous. Yeah, you should be a little uncomfortable, but you should be excited about what's going to happen to you, yourself, your business, the people you work with. It's thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling. It's absolutely thrilling. And I think everyone deserves here to have that opportunity.
A real aside, for anybody who is running an agency, which is probably everybody in this call, if you want to manage better client relationships, get that book, which I don't know if you can read it or if it's backwards. It's called Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. It's exceptionally good.
Love that. That's great. That is great.
It talks about buyer's remorse in great detail.
All right,
so what questions have we got? We're going to wrap up here in about 5 or 10 minutes, but I want to make sure we get some questions first. So who has got questions for Alex or I? Okay, see what we've got coming through the chat.
There's a Q&A and a chat, so you can use. I know,
it's very confusing. I'm trying to read both at the moment.
Yeah, Kyle was using the
Phil says it's all about laser focus and relentless implementation.
Of course.
The right thing, consistency, and intensity. My favorite phrase. It's all about doing the right thing. See if anything comes in a second. Oh, I like that, Tim. What are the 2 questions to ask a mentor before you hire them? I think that's one for you, Alex.
Okay, I like that a lot. What are the 2 questions to ask a mentor before you hire them? I want to answer this carefully. So give me a second here. I want to make sure that I really think about the 2 questions. I like that question a lot. It's a really, really good question. What are the 2 questions that you want to ask?
While you're doing that, I'll give you the questions that I like to ask.
Okay.
Because I think it's useful. And I speak more as a buyer of coaching than as a coach. It's not something I do much of, and so I'm much more on the other side of this fence. But for me, I want to know from that coach, it's never price. The price is just the mechanic. That's the thing that enables us to sign. It's what can I expect from your process in terms of how are you going to approach this? Are you just going to come on a call, as Alex said earlier, are you just coming on the call to go, right, tell me what's your problem, how can I help? Is that your process? So I want to know, what's their process?
Proactive or reactive? Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the, and I also want to give them like a little, almost a test, which is more a case of, here's where I am today. What do you think I should be doing next?
Yeah.
And they're the 2 kind of questions. And the second one's more of it's not so much a question, it's more of an open discussion. I want to have that conversation about, in my shoes, what are your thoughts? Because I don't want to work with somebody who has a fundamentally such a different idea of and set of values for my business that I can't be compatible with that person. I need to know that we may have differences in terms of methods, in some of the strategy, but fundamentally, we have a common set of values that support it.
Absolutely. And to that point, I like both those questions. And Tim, there's a couple other things that I would really strongly consider asking a mentor. And if they don't provide this for you during the conversation to the point that you get to a question, I would be concerned. But number 1 would be, what is your story in terms of why you believe you'd be a good mentor for me? I want to be sold. I want to be sold. I don't want this just to be some, relaxed kind of state call. We can have those conversations when we're already working together. I want to be sold on this. I want to know why you believe this is right for me specifically. Why does it matter for me specifically? Because in this scenario, Tim, you need to be selfish. You need to make the decision that's going to work best for you, your family, your business, the people you work with. That really matters. So that's number one. That would be something I'd really strongly advise, trying to get them to actually sell you. That would be something I'd really go after. And then number two is anytime that I'm speaking to someone, what I'm looking for from them to ask me is questions about their skill set. As in, how are you going to help me maximize my skill set? Are you going to tell me to delegate this process, to focus on doing this? How are you going to help me maximize my skill set? That's a question that when someone asks me that, I know their mindset's in the right place. Because if you believe you can handle everything in a business, meaning you can wear all the hats, you're probably not someone I can work with very well. Because right off the top, that's a big difference in belief. I strongly believe in the idea of outsourcing, fulfilling, bringing people on, delegating work so you can become a CEO of the business model, right? So if someone asks me, how can I maximize my skill set, or how can you help me maximize my skill set, then I know they're serious about where they want to be, what their vision is. The most important question, though, I think Rob said it, which would be, what's your vision for me? What do you see? Here's where I'm at. Here's the obstacle I provided for you. How can you help me? And that's really important. And I think that would be really key. Kyle then asked, how can someone who hires a mentor best show up to be coached? I find it ironic that Kyle asked this. So I work with Kyle one-on-one, and in my opinion, him and his partner, Mike, are the best entrepreneurs I've worked with in terms of taking action and showing up to calls prepared. So Kyle, I think you can answer that question better than asking it. So it's funny that you add it. But I'll say basically what Kyle's done and what the people that I've worked with that have had great success showing up and how they make sure they have the best results. So I think the best thing to do in the beginning is to set expectations. In the beginning, we set goals, what we want to do. We do that SWOT analysis I was telling you, a value chain breakdown, and really understanding where the root of the problem is. Stop coming with surface level problems. Start thinking with root level problems. Surface level problems can be handled in a million facets. It's not good to work on surface level problems when you're being mentored. Focus on those root issues, those major tenets, those building block issues, where your foundational structure of your business, what are the problems that you're dealing with? And show up to the call with those problems to be solved, and make sure there's a guidance and a process. The other process as well that I'd highly recommend, and this is the two most important things I'd recommend, would be number one, every call that you work with someone should be recorded 100%. If it's in person, record it on a note on your phone or something. But you must record every call and listen back to every single call at least one time before the next call, because it would be foolish of you not to rehash what you have already learned. A lot of the times when I speak with people, I tell them not to write notes. And they're like, why? Why would you not want me to write notes? I say, I want you to listen to me and hear me and focus on what I'm saying, and then go back and write notes later. Because right now we'll have a conversation. You're going to learn a lot more from that. So that's number one. Number two is then I'd set out time specifically on your calendar to do the work that was required of you. Like Rob and I had mentioned several times, do not show up to calls without getting work done. Kyle and his partner, Mike, they are two of the most successful entrepreneurs I've worked with in terms of implementation. We talk about X, Y, and Z, do all these things. They come back, it's all ready. It's all ready for me to review and process and look at and go through. And that makes my job easier, and I can help better. Yeah. That is, in my opinion, is the two main ways to get the most out of your mentor relationship.
Alex, if I can add to that. So one of the mentor relationships I have, we often treat the call as what is the most pressing issue that needs dealing with in the business today? So we're not following a structured framework. We are saying, what's the most pressing thing to deal with? And what I try and do for every single call that I go into like that is hone in on one problem or one issue or one opportunity. So it could be an acquisition. It could be an internal process thing. It could be anything. But don't just stop at the surface question. I try and myself go in with what I think what is background work that I could do? What data can I bring? What can I find out ahead of it? Is there, so I can go to my coach with the best rounded background, so they have better context. Because bear in mind, your coach is not in your business 24/7. They don't know your business as well as you do. It's your responsibility to communicate to them the context of the question or the issue or the opportunity. Because if they can't have that context, they can't advise you very well. So I try and work out as much as I possibly can the background. I try and better quantify the question. As we all know, a better quality question gets a better quality answer. I know it's going to get revised on the call anyway. I know whatever I come up with will not be perfect, but I still want to go through that mental exercise, find the data, find the evidence, and really show up prepared for it. Because if you've not put that mental work in beforehand, what you're saying essentially is to your coach is, I'm not prepared to work my mental energy trying to figure this problem out. I want you to solve it for me.
Agreed.
Don't be that guy. Put the effort in first, and then by moving the problem 50% of the way towards its answer, you'll get 150% by the end because they'll answer a better quality question. But if it takes you half your call or half your session just to get to the start line you could have got to yourself, you've wasted your time and you've wasted your coach's time and you've paid for that. And that's disappointing. Don't put yourself in that position. And I speak to that, Kyle, as the person in your situation, who is going on to be coached.
Cannot agree more with that. Cannot agree more with that. Does anyone else have any other questions for us on this process? We appreciate you guys being here with us today. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, throw a 7 in the comments below. That's my number. So I'd love to see a bunch of 7s here. There we go.
There we go. All the 7s coming in. And while people are doing that, I'm just going to say 2 things. Obviously, if you know me, you know where InvisiblePPC.com, you know where to find me if you've got any questions, any follow-up for me personally. Now, I don't do coaching. I don't take on coaching clients. So it's not something I have to offer. It is something that Alex does. It's a key part of Alex's business. Alex, how can people reach and engage with you? If they are trying to grow their agency right now and they believe that prospecting or your particular type of coaching is of value to them, how do people reach out to you for that?
So I just put in the panelist in the chat where you can reach out to me on Facebook. And that's definitely the fastest way to reach out to me. I'll also put in my email as well. And then if you go to the website on my email, which is prospectingondemand.com, you could see results of the people I work with and a little bit more about myself and free training and webinars and all that good stuff as well. So I'll put all that information in again, which is prospectingondemand.com. You can reach me at alex@prospectingondemand.com or facebook.com/Schlinsky, which is my last name. I'd say that's probably the hardest one to remember. So go after the other 2 or just go in the chat here and you'll be able to find me. But I would love to speak to any of you, would be honored to work with any of you, and ultimately just want to make sure that I can help you. That's what I care about most. Being able to make a difference for you guys is really what I do. And that's my favorite thing in the world. I love nothing more than working with people and helping them grow their business. It's a thrilling endeavor.
Guys, thank you so much. And for those of you who are looking to grow your agency, I heartily recommend engaging Alex. I know from feedback I know from people who's working with them, they're getting great outcomes. So if agency growth is your particular area of interest and you're looking for a coach in that, have a conversation with Alex. He does this thing all day long and makes it really, really well. So with that said, any final comments or questions you'd like to make before we wrap up, Alex?
Any final comments? I think the final comment would be, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take the leap of faith to invest in yourself and in your business and see what happens when you actually go ahead and do so. I'll end with this personal story. When I was, growing up and in my childhood, I was very cognizant and frugal of finances because we were not a very wealthy family. So I was very rare for me to invest in things, to purchase things. So when I went into my business, investing was a unnatural idea until I got my first mentor, who was not someone I paid, that told me the significant growth you need is through investing. And that's when I started to invest in myself and in my business. And that's where I've seen all the greatest results possible. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself, in your growth, in your business. I promise you, if you do so, you will create amazing and immense growth. Remember, productivity, perseverance. Keep on progressing, guys. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here today with us. We appreciate it. Thanks again, Rob.
Guys, thank you so much for all your time. Alex, you've been an absolute star. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out today. It's been an absolute blast. I love talking about this because it makes a difference. Do you know what? It's a really strange thing. My final closing comment to this is, it could be a really hard thing to justify or get involved with in terms of mentoring, because it's hard to pin an ROI on it immediately. It's hard to pin it's not a tactic. You're not buying a tactic about how to do X. You're buying something bigger than that. You're engaging in a bigger process than that. And often that means that the outcomes are less defined. And that makes it hard. And that's partly why when you've paid a lot of money, you get that butterflies feeling in your stomach going, oh my goodness, that's slightly uncomfortable. I hope this is going to work. But that's kind of part of it. It isn't about a sales letter. It's about believing in better for yourself and for your business and finding the people who can take you down that path. And ultimately, if you find the wrong one, find a different one. But more importantly, do it, because even a bad mentor will teach you something. Obviously, Alex is a really good mentor, so hire him, and you know you're on the right track. But the point is, learn to develop your business. Your business can't be better until you're better. So with that said, everybody, have a great rest of your day. We will get a recording out tomorrow. Alex, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me.
And we will speak soon. Take care, guys.